All right, hello everybody. My name is Caleb, and I took 4390 over the summer. We did the Fresh Connection simulation. There were a lot of assignments and a lot of news articles. Those are difficult, and good luck with them. But we did well in the simulation, and quite a few people have asked me if I could go over it. I thought, well, I made a few videos for 4380. Seemed to be somewhat popular, so hopefully I can make this and it's helpful. So I'll share my screen. Okay, so going to TFC, I just logged into my account here. This is after round 9, so we kind of experimented around. The idea of this video is not to walk through everything from the beginning. Like if you spend a few hours just reading definitions and that kind of stuff, then you'll probably know enough that this video will help you. But if you haven't opened the simulation yet, I wouldn't recommend this video because I'm not going to go over all, like it would take hours and hours and hours to go over everything. So a few general pointers, which if you want to write down. You want to have a strategy that's coherent. So if you make a decision in purchasing, for example, you need to make sure that decision works with your decisions in sales. So let's say your strategy is to kind of go with a lean strategy. I don't mean lean like you learn Dr. Goes Fast, but lean kind of as in, okay, let's just try to get lower inventories, and then kind of faster sales, even if it means we have to get higher quality, higher cost suppliers. It's no problem if that's a trade-off you're happy to make. Okay, say that's your strategy. Well, what you need is suppliers with low lead times. So if your idea is to have very low inventory all the time, so you keep your warehouse empty and you keep product like shipping out the door and you manufacture at small batch sizes, then you can't have lead times that are high. So this is a very, very, very low lead time. So 5 days, that's great. So you have 5 components, right? So you got packs, PETs, oranges, mangoes, and vitamin C. So 5 days, very low lead time. So it's possible to order every component you need so that you can keep low inventory levels of everything. With oranges, it's a little difficult because there are only, this changes throughout the simulation. So if it looks a little confusing, don't worry yet. Eventually you'll be able to dual source, which for some products is a good idea. We figured out only oranges. It would only be a good idea to dual source for oranges. Anyways, see the lead time is 40 days. So it's very difficult to run on kind of a lean strategy of low inventories, all that, if we're going to have a lead time of 40 days. So we have a dual source. And because it's impossible to follow our strategy with any orange suppliers, we decided to make sure we had more raw material inventory of oranges than other products. So we don't need many weeks worth of inventory. Weeks would be average demand per week times the amount that we need. Yes, that would be like 1 week's inventory would be the amount of demand we'd have in 1 week. So we just, I don't know, did maybe 1.7 times that. So in case we had a demand surge or just things kind of went up and down, we could still cover all our production needs without carrying too much inventory. Yes, anyways, with oranges, we dual sourced and keep more inventory. And that's worked pretty well, but it does come with higher costs. So mangoes, we also dual sourced because lead time 40 days, we wanted to keep low inventory levels. And then vitamin C, 5 days. Now, problem is there are trade-offs to everything. Like one of the biggest things I learned with this is every decision you make has a trade-off. Actually, sorry, I'll come back to that. Okay, so you see how in purchasing, all our suppliers have fast lead times, good quality, all that kind of stuff. Well, what that means is in supply chain management, we need to make sure we have low-ish inventory of our components. So safety stock in weeks. So okay, 1.8 weeks, given a demand lead time of 5 days, we can say, okay, if demand increases by 80% in 1 week, we want to be able to handle it. So it's a trade-off, right? If you decide that you want to have enough demand to keep up with, say, a surge of 30% in inventory in 1 week, that means that you will have more stockouts, but it also means you can keep lower inventory. So it's all kind of expected values. We figured out these numbers. I'm not saying you should copy them. The 9th round, we kind of messed around. It's a bonus round, which is why I'm very happy showing this one instead of our actual decisions, because I took it over the summer and I still would like to beat the people we compete with in the fall. So can't give away all my secrets. But as you can see with oranges, we kept a little bit higher safety stock, not that high, it's only 2.0. Maybe we should have increased this a little bit, but our component availability was still very high. I remember that from the Excel sheet. So as long as your component availability, which I can show, availability component is 99.6%. As long as this is high, then you're okay. If it's low, it means you can't produce when you want to. So availability of components is calculated by, okay, say you need to make a 1 liter mango orange drink. Sorry, there's 6 products. It's been a while, I forgot. Okay, product. Okay, so let's say you want to make a Fressy orange mango plus C 1 liter. That means you need the 1 liter. That means you need 4 components. You need the oranges, the mangoes, vitamin C, and you need the 1 liter bottles, not the PET ones. So, given you need 4 components, if your component availability is less than 100%, means that when you wanted to make the components, they weren't always available. So you want high component availability. 99% is probably high enough for most things. Like we or somebody else got 99.9%. That's good, but it comes with trade-offs. So maybe you'd be better off paying less money and get a lower contract index with your purchase with your suppliers, meaning the contract is okay. So the contract index is lower. You pay a lower price for every raw material you buy from suppliers, but things that lower your contract index lower your quality. So here, that actually this is not a very good example because this is just a phenomenal supplier. I highly recommend them. Let's see. Okay, so payment terms, 3 weeks. We have to pay interest if we need to borrow money from the bank. So cash on hand is different than like money that we could liquidate. It would take more time. So payment terms, we would like them to be very, very long. So the company, the Fresh Connection, would like the payment terms for suppliers to be very long because that means we have forever to pay them. We don't have to worry about it. We can wait for lots of revenue to come in from our sales. But if we say, okay, we're going to pay you within 3 weeks, that means that sometimes we're going to have to borrow money from the bank and pay them back whenever we get our money. So lower payment terms is good for the suppliers, and it lowers the contract index. So if we're willing to pay them quickly, then we can get a lower contract index, right? Now, if we wanted lower quality, it's possible to inspect materials, by the way. So if we wanted lower quality, it would also lower our contract index, but it would mean that we'd have to, in operations, we'd have to inspect these materials and make sure there were no problems with them. Well, maybe it would mean we'd have to, but it's likely. And then if we didn't inspect them and some defective products got through, it means we'd have production problems and changeover time problems. And so, yeah, just a big thing is that there are trade-offs in everything you do. So yes, so 2 things so far: have a coherent strategy and make sure that you understand there are trade-offs to everything. Okay, I have notes, so let's see. There are a few cheat codes in this game which are great, and we figured them out. So one of them is, let's say you're in purchasing. The longer the remaining contract duration, the lower your contract index. And that's awesome because you pay less for every product, right? Problem is, if you want to cancel a contract when the contract is ongoing, it costs money because you broke the contract, so there's a contract breaking fee. If there are, let's say, 2 rounds left, so you're in round 6 and there are 8 rounds total, you want to keep that supplier for 2 more rounds because that's the many there are and you like the supplier, you can just specify that you want to keep them for 4 rounds. I'm logged in as myself and I was a VP of sales, not of purchasing. So I can't click on negotiate right now, or actually I can click on yes right now. But if I could, then you'd see I can change the contract duration period to the maximum in this game, which is 4 weeks. And that doesn't affect anything as far as we're concerned, except it lowers our contract index, which means we get the same quality of things for a lower price. So that's definitely a cheat code. There is one more great cheat code. Let's see. Yes, okay. Something very annoying to us, because our strategy was kind of a lean operation. We were not allowed to reduce the number of pallet locations in the outbound warehouse. So I think the easiest place to show it would actually just be in our, no. Yes, the easiest place to show it would just be here. So we look at warehouse, I think. Yeah, okay, so capacity, this was impossible to change, unfortunately. It's very sad. So we started using, at first we were using quite a bit of it. So the cube utilization, 83%, 82%. I'd say 85% means you don't need to expand capacity. 85% is a general okay number for like your bottlers or your mixers, for example. So if you're using 85, if you're using say 90% of your mixer capacity, you don't know what's going to happen to demand. Can you increase your promotional pressure? It's like, well, if you are almost out of mixer capacity, so at 90%, then maybe the answer is no, and maybe you need to increase the speed of your mixer, or maybe you need to buy another mixer. However, I'll get to that. It's yeah, I'm not a fan of buying new equipment in this game. Anyways, our capacity, unfortunately, as you can see, is 900, 900, just always 900. But as we got better and more efficient throughout the game, because we got more experience, our usage went down. So we're using, so we use actually in round 4, we use less than half of the raw materials warehouse space. And yes, we use way too many oranges. This was probably the biggest mistake we made in the game because we just couldn't figure out how to lower our tank utilization. The only thing we ordered in tanks was oranges. But anyways, you can't reduce this. So let's say your strategy is to be lean and mean, right? That means low inventories and you produce things quickly, so you have low intervals in between productions and maybe higher changeover time, but whatever, right? Okay, so this is, but you may as well keep more raw materials in your warehouse because that will increase your component availability. I already explained component availability earlier, and it is the percent of the time that when you need a component to start production, you actually have that component. So let's say your component availability for something is like 99%. It's like, well, you might as well, if you can get it to 99.2%, you don't pay any extra cost by storing 417 to 488 or 751. Now, actually, if it's this high, it's probably not a good idea. But if you can increase the amount of raw materials you keep on hand, it does not, and you can't reduce the warehouse size. So if you could sell warehouse space, that would be useful. So if we could have, I wish these numbers would be like 500 or 600, right? Because then we could sell that space, rent it out, make money off of it, and have a higher return on investment. That would be very useful. Unfortunately, that was impossible in this game. So another cheat code is, even if your strategy is lean and mean, keep a lot of raw materials because why not? It doesn't hurt you and it's going to help. Okay, another thing, which is very overarching, is that return on investment is all that matters in this game. Nothing else, no other metric is important. So you may be saying, okay, CO2, what's that? So around round 5, CO2 will be introduced, and that's when you get introduced to the world of disruptions. Our team, which did very well, didn't really care about CO2, except for to the degree it affected our contract indexes and sales. So you get more money. The contract index is the kind of base price of the product multiplied by the contract. So okay, the revenue you get from selling a product to all rounds, say, is the base price, which you can find in information or something, times the contract index. So if the contract index is 1, it means you're just getting whatever the base price is. If it's less than 1, it means you're getting less than that. And if it's more than 1, you're getting more than that. Same thing with purchasing. So, I mean, this is not exactly true, but I wouldn't think of it this way, but generally, contract index would be good if it was high when you're selling, and it would be good if it's low when you're purchasing. No, again, not exactly true, because the only thing that matters is return on investment. So if you invest a lot into lowering CO2, and it increases your contract index because you can promise that you're going to have a lower carbon footprint. So this is just agreements, right? This is not how we actually did, but let's see. You can go to negotiate because I am the sales guy. Okay, so what I want to do is predict how much carbon dioxide our company is going to use, and then promise around that, and hopefully I'm correct. And then we get more money, more total revenue from our customers. Now, you shouldn't spend too much money on CO2. Like, you shouldn't care about it. It's not a moral thing. All that matters is that you have your contract index well and that your return on investment is the highest. So don't just try to reduce all CO2. Don't not care about CO2. Our team strategy was reduce CO2 a little bit, but if there's anything that costs more money than we're going to save, so our ROI will go down, sort of, not exactly strictly speaking, but our ROI will go down, then don't do it. Okay, I'm back. All right. Also, a quick note, if you're looking at this and you're in one of the early rounds, and you're thinking, okay, what's carbon footprint, what's promotional pressure, what's all this kind of stuff? Don't worry, as the rounds go on, you'll be able to manipulate and change more and more stuff as you go. So CO2 isn't introduced until I think the 5th round. I think the 6th round or maybe the 5th round is where disruptions come in. So maybe your, I don't know, orange supplier in Florida, well, there will be an earthquake and you can't get your oranges on time, and that'll cost you elsewhere. So it's like, well, do you dual source? Well, there's a cost of dual sourcing, yeah, but maybe you'll be able to produce more and you'll have fewer problems. You can actually make your sales and you won't get penalties. So that's all very useful. Another thing is, okay, well, actually, okay, I sort of explained purchasing because what you'd like to do is come up with a strategy and negotiate all your purchasing ideas or negotiate your purchasing contracts to be in line with that idea. Now, with operations, you largely want to do the same thing. I'll go more into this when we look at the Excel doc. I'll show how to analyze how you did and what you changed. But let's say Yeah, okay. So let's say you want lower obsolete products and that'll result in higher ROI. If we have a supplier that's maybe lower quality or just not as good, but maybe cheaper, right? Which is fine. Then you may want to inspect raw materials. So I can't change this, but you can kind of see a blue. These are check marks in them. So we're inspecting oranges, and I think this was mangoes. It's hard to tell sometimes what they have kind of funny names. But anyways, we're inspecting one of our orange suppliers and I believe one of our mango suppliers. So you can choose to inspect as many as you want. It takes time, and that can end up costing you money, and maybe you have to hire more employees. But if you let bad components through, means you have bad final products, or maybe it messes up the machine, and you have to spend an hour fixing that. So at the end of the day, what you want is good trade-offs. Everything's a trade-off. There's no kind of free lunch except for the two cheats, and maybe a few more that I mentioned earlier. Okay. In operations, mixing and bottling, the worst decision you can make in this game, I'm fairly convinced, other than like really obvious things like keeping no finished goods stock, like something that's like super obvious, is buying a new mixer or bottler. Do not buy a new mixer. Do not buy a new bottler, except for unbelievably good reasons. It is the worst decision you can possibly make. So let's go to round one. Sorry, I'm looking at a friend's and I forget which one is mine. Okay, so this is just round one to round five, right? I'm not recommending you copy our ideas because some of them are good, some of them are bad. So if we look at round one, the bottling line. Okay, we're going to look at capacity utilization. Capacity, start up, runtime percentage. Okay, anyways, we can figure out capacity by looking at unused capacity. So if we look at our mixer, I'd forget. Yes. Okay. So here are the rounds where we got new mixers. Okay, this is definitely not my Excel sheet, but it's okay because we never bought a new mixer. But anyways, the capacity, at least from round 0 to round 4, unused capacity was 25% in round 0, 5% in round 4, which is too low. Now, what you should do before buying a new mixer, because it's very expensive and that counts as an investment. So let's say that your current investments are $4 million and you get a new mixer that's $300,000. And that's reasonable. There are mixers that cost that much. And I think there are some more expensive mixers, although bottlers more expensive. But anyways, oh crap, I'm talking about bottlers. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's the same principle. Mixers and bottlers, both in operations, both you analyze them the exact same way. So everything I said over the last 30 seconds, I meant bottlers. Okay, so you see how the bottler capacity is at 5%. Instead of buying a new one, what you should do is see how you can make your company more efficient. See if you can have less obsolete products. See if you can just make things more efficient, right? So that would be what you should do. And once you've done that, okay, so this team did this, and now they're at almost 20% unused capacity. And now their unused capacity is good. So they have 70% used capacity and only 30% unused capacity. So that's before they ever bought a new mixer. Sorry, I don't mean to rip on this team. Thankfully, you guys don't know who they are. I will stop using this Excel sheet very soon. Anyway, so their team became more efficient and their unused capacity went down significantly, and that's without buying a new bottler. Looking at mixers, this is a very, well, you know what, I'll cover this pretty soon. Okay. So operations, you have all these options. Don't buy a new bottler or new mixer before you spend a lot of time making sure your business is more efficient. Like there is no need for a new bottler or new mixer, unless whenever you're watching this, I don't know, 2030, whatever it is, the game is completely changed or you're not playing this one anymore. Maybe that's a different story, but I don't know. Preventative maintenance. So there's just a cost to this, right? So something useful is you can just hover your mouse over the little eyes and then some information will come about it. This is just a very short summary. You can click more and then a whole new tab will open and you can see what's what. So preventative maintenance, blah, 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 blah. Basically, it reduces the number, I believe this one reduces the number of breakdowns, but it costs either time or money. So you have to figure out, okay, are we having too many breakdowns and are we willing to give up the time or money that it costs? And if you're having very, very, very few breakdowns with a lot of preventative maintenance, maybe the answer is you go a little less preventative maintenance. And you will, that's a trade-off, is that though you'll spend less time doing preventative maintenance, you will have, or preventive maintenance, you will have more problems because you didn't do as much maintenance. So it's just trade-offs. Line settings, yes. So if you're really having trouble doing with too much capacity utilization in bottlers or mixers, what you can do is increase the speed. So you can increase the speed of this bottler, and then you can change the number of shifts. And then all these things are just options to, well, except for decreased energy usage, that'll help with your CO2. But most of these things are just options to make sure that you can increase the speed. Costs money, but it is significantly cheaper than buying a new bottler. Don't buy a new bottler, don't buy a new mixer. Yep. This is, if you only have one bottle and mixer, which you should, this is pretty much useless. You can ignore this. It just means which products you assign to which bottlers. So if you had two bottlers, for example, you could say, okay, I want these three products made off the first bottler, I want the next three products made off the second bottler, but basically just kind of ignore this. Yeah. All right, mixing, pretty much the same thing. I'll explain more of this when I go through the big Excel sheet and how to set it all up. Okay, with outbound. Yeah, unfortunately, it is impossible to change the number of outbound pallet locations. So even if you're using very little, unfortunately, it is not, yeah, you can't take advantage of the fact that you did a good job or a bad job with that. Okay, in sales, well, actually, let's go to supply chain management next. Okay, for supply chain management, every decision has to be made in line with your strategy. So I'll just using the lean and mean strategy, our safety stock of components. If your warehouse is too full, then and you have enough component availability, then you should probably lower the safety stock of various components. And also the lot size is, well, just to be sure, I can explain it, but okay, the minimum quantity ordered when stock replenishment is necessary, expressed in demand in weeks. Okay, so from 0 to 20 weeks. If you're running low on pack 1 liters, it'll reorder, the machine will reorder. Unfortunately, you cannot control the reorder point, only the reorder quantity. So ROQ, which you probably learned in, I don't know, like MIS 3300 or 1, whatever it is. That's the, okay, lot size is the, yes, the reorder quantity. And the reorder point is done for you, I don't know how. Anyways, the lot size, you can see we ordered different amounts. Mango, I can't remember exactly why it's higher than all the other ones. Maybe because higher cost per shipment. Oh, you know what it could be? It could be because CO2, the amount of CO2 released per shipment was such that it was worth holding more mangoes to reduce our CO2 output because we got more revenue by promising and attaining higher contract indexes by getting lower CO2 output. It's possible, it's very possible. If your mango supplier is far away, getting fewer orders may help. Okay, for production. Okay, frozen, yes, okay, this is, we had an interesting thing with this. Frozen period of production weeks, we never really changed this. I think the standard is 5, but then yes, okay, so we didn't change this for a long time, and then we got an email. Yes, okay, that's another thing. Check your emails all the time, your inbox. So this will be very useful. Tell every member of your team to check your emails because some emails only go to you, some people only go to, some emails go to 2 people. So this one just went to me, for example. The other one, and this one also just went to me. This one went to the operations manager and me. So you have to just make sure every team member checks your emails. Sometimes you get very, very, very important emails that you cannot ignore. Mostly they're just definitions, kind of useless stuff, but occasionally they'll be very important. And they'll tell you about, oh, there's a study that said vitamin C is bad, not as good for you as I thought it was. So you should expect, you should expect your sales for vitamin C products to decrease, which means that maybe you have to recall them, which means it would be good not to be producing. So you can reduce the frozen period of production weeks. And that would be, better than not. So if you have bad teammates, I recommend tricking them into getting their logins, or not tricking them, sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, I recommend getting their logins and saying, oh, I'll help you out, and then check your emails and then make changes. Yes, if you have teammates who you think will derelict their duty, then I highly recommend that. Next is supply chain management for product. So this is the production days. We had our production days way too high until nearly the end, but yeah, around 4. It's kind of funny, like just giving round numbers will help so much because when you start, it's hard to tell exactly. Like, okay, well, do we lower it a little bit? Should we lower it a lot? But if you make any drastic changes, then that's not such a good idea. Yeah, I would say if you're doing, just as a general principle for TFC, if you're doing well and you're beating the other teams, you can see how you're doing in the rankings. Just I'd open this in a new tab. And as long as you're doing well in the rankings, so like we were first place, then I would say it's totally fine to make small changes. So let's say you're, I don't know, 50% sure that if you lowered these all to 2, you would do better, and you're fairly confident, you're 75% sure that if you lowered all the production interval days to 3, you would do a little bit better. It's like, well, do 3 and see what the repercussions of it are. So if you're doing better in one area and you know the trade-offs, and the trade-offs are very small, you could try, I don't know, shifting half of them to 3. Yes, as a general principle, if things are going well, then don't make drastic changes. Now, if things are going badly, you can make hugely different changes. Like in the first round for our team, we just tried to put out fires, and then in the second round, we adopted a whole new strategy. So no, let me do this third round. Anyways, we adopted a whole new strategy kind of after putting out fires, and it was successful. Even if it wasn't successful, we just make some big changes until things are going well, right? And then just slowly incremental changes. I know eight or 9 rounds does not seem like many, but if you analyze everything very carefully, make small changes, all for the better, all in line with each other, in line with your strategy, then it's possible to do very, very, very well. Yes. Now, okay, every purchasing, operations, sales, supply chain management, you'll get a decision log, so you can see kind of what you did every time. I can show you round 9 because this was the round that was kind of just messing around. But yeah, I'm trying not to give away all the secrets. So. Anyways, this is, yep, this just shows you what you did. So if you want to figure out what you did last round, say that there were too high, I don't know, let's say your availability components were too low. It's like, well, okay, why was that? Well, we didn't keep enough safety stock, or maybe we should increase the safety stock, or if you want to see, say your component availability components went up, you can say, okay, let me click round 8. So if you click round 8, maybe we can see if the safety stock for components went up in round 9 relative to round 8. It's like, well, that could explain it. Or if it didn't, let's say your safety stock in weeks of your raw materials are the same in round 8, round 9, then something else explain it. So you got to figure out why what you did worked, what the costs were, and whether you should do it more, whether you should try something else, so all that stuff. Okay, on sales, this is an interesting role because the entire goal of sales, it's funny, unfortunately, even though it's a simulation, it's really stupidly set up. So, well, a lot of it's good, but the incentives are not very good. I could find it in information or info center or something. The VP of sales is only ranked compared to other people based on the amount of revenue that they receive. So yeah, by the way, another thing which you'll realize in like round 3 or so, if you look at it, is that demand does not change at all if you don't change promotional pressure, and also if you don't lose or gain market share. So we lost a little bit of market share around 6 sometime because we ignored an email, which was fun, which is fine. And then if we change the promotional pressure, then we can get different sales, but not too different. You got to figure out how different and what the cost is of promoting more, because it's like if you pay for advertising, well, you probably get a few more sales, but if you get a lot more sales and you get more total ROI, then it's worth it, and it's the opposite is vice versa as well. So let's see, VMI and collaboration projects, you can kind of just like that'll come if you understand all the stuff in the video, then you'll be fine. Like as stuff comes along, you learn more of it. Let's see. Yes, demand will stay the same. All right. So the entire job of the sales is to make predictions in line with what you think the company will actually do. Now, if your strategy is to get more revenue, and well, I don't know why that would be the strategy itself, like ROI is the goal, but so you're being lean and mean. Well, okay, your promotional pressure that increases investment, increased costs, but if you're getting more products and you can actually handle that within operations, so let's say, yeah, if your operations are already at almost full capacity, and you can't handle any more demand, then you shouldn't do any heavier promotional pressure because that'll result in failure. That means you won't be able to live up to your agreements, and your service level will go down, your shelf life will probably be bad, and all this kind of stuff. So all these terms, just click a little eye and you can figure out what they mean, or ask the TA or something. Yeah, okay. So the job of the sales VP is to make sure all these promises are in line with what you'll actually deliver, right? But the incentives, it's just really stupid because the incentives for the sales VP is to come hell or high water, sell a lot of products, which is, not brilliant. All right, sorry, I'm just making sure. Yeah, okay, my microphone's working. Good. Order management, this is kind of, I think this is pretty useless. Yeah, okay. So this is just customer rules. So if you run out of products that you can distribute, you can figure out which order to go in. We decided to do this in the 9th round. Probably because we just based it off of sales we were getting. I don't know exactly why, or maybe because repeat business. You can also do proportional, first come first serve, whatever. Just make choices about this, and that would keep them. Like there's not really a reason I can't really foresee any reason to change them, but if you find a good reason, do it. And then this should look exactly like this. There's no kind of other like, oh, should we check this? No, the answer is no, because Teco, as you'll learn, does not buy any 1 liter products because it's like they're a gas station. All around is kind of like Walmart. Domus is kind of like Aldi, and Teco is like Yeah, a gas station. So they only buy the smaller PET bottles, and all around Indomus, I don't know how to pronounce them correctly, buy all the products. So this is how this should look, right? Yeah, forecasting. This is gonna sound stupid. It's look, don't change the forecast unless you lose or gain market share, or unless in sales you increase or decrease the promotional pressure. So naturally, I think it's on the middle, but you can increase it to or decrease to whatever you want. There's two other options up in the middle, high and low probably. Okay, so that's sales. And okay, how do we analyze how we did? So there are a lot of graphs. You can click on like customer margin, and it'll show you to bring up all these reports and like, oh, isn't that nice? But the problem is these are really badly done graphs. I think it's crap. So you can see the rounds kind of clearly, which is nice, but it's like, okay, what does this mean exactly? Like why do these numbers? What do we care about? And also, this does not tell any of the stories. You see, okay, well, this went up. Why and exactly to what and what caused it, and is that useful? And do we want more of that? And what did we do that could cause that? If we don't want it, then what were the 6 things that we changed? And what's the significance of each of them? So instead, I would not ignore all the graphs, most of them. What you should do is go down here to analysis. You can find this within any folder. So okay, you saw it in sales. I go to operations. So you click on analysis. You can get different graphs from here, but what I highly recommend doing is, okay, I'm going to go from round 1 because that's our first decisions. And yeah, okay, round 1. That's our first decisions. Round -2, -1, and 0 are with the previous management team, which are garbage. Okay, instead of just clicking component, so you select one of you, go all the way down to export all data to Excel, and click execute query. And maybe it's just downloading. Yep, there we go. Loading. Okay. So this is what we get. And it's a lot of information. And we have information component, supplier component. So here is how I would set up every single one. The reason I have this Excel sheet open is because I already did that. Just follow along for every single one. What you got to do is Control Alt, insert table, enter. And then just to make sure you can see things, I would double click on the spacing, whatever it's called. All right, so this is important. You want to know the round, you want to know delivery liability, key projection, deliveries per round is not very important. Important for some things, but as far as analysis, what you should do, I would just delete that. Order lines, previous round, not that important. Purchase value, previous round, also not that important. Like you can get this information from elsewhere, so like who cares? Okay, this is not that important for suppliers. Okay. Actually, you know what? I would delete the entire supplier thing because the next sheet called supplier component is much more useful. It tells you all the information that was in supplier and isn't missing anything. So okay, same thing. Insert table. Okay, supplier important. Order lines not important for most things. Purchase value not important. Transport costs not important. Demand per week. Well, it's kind of neat because you can see that it's the same in total, but since I already told you that, you don't really need to know that. It'll be useful sometimes if you increase promotional pressure. Screw it. Just keep this. Just keep this, I guess. Okay, amount purchase previous round, delete. Purchase price, that's just, you can figure that out with contract indexes. Order size, nothing important. So this is how this sheet should look at the end. All right, I skipped components. So for components, Control All, insert table. Okay, important. Order lines, not important. Purchase value previous round. That's also transport costs. Demand per week. Okay, so that's any other thing. There's a lot of repeated information, and it's useful if you're looking at one of the tabs. But if you can kind of make sense of all the tabs, then it doesn't really matter. Like you don't need to have the same information in 10 different spots. Stock, delete. Useful for some things, but not for most. Delete. Stock value, delete. The percentage stock is the more important thing. Okay, economic inventory. Yeah, it can be, but no, delete. Obsoletes. Yes, very important. Very important. No, sorry. Actually important for finished goods. Very important for finished products. Yes, okay, fine. Component availability. Yes, very important. Bias. That's okay. Purchase for previous round. Delete. All right, so you should be left with a tab that looks like this. We already did supplier component. Okay, bottling line. I forget which one because it's been a while since I've done this, but either bottling line or mixer gives you like no useful information whatsoever. Yeah, okay, so this is like Okay, mixers. This gives you, this is the one that's almost completely useless. So insert table. I usually just delete this after looking at it for 10 seconds. The average lot size. Yeah, like as long as your machine can handle it, like as long as there's nothing insane, you're good to go. Okay, round, you get the mixer name, which like, I don't know, if you have two mixers which you shouldn't have, then it's fine. Cleaning time, percentage. It's like, well, you care about the utilization time, and I guess you could change this, but like, I don't know, you could only make maybe one decision based off this. I would just delete this whole tab as soon as if you look at it and see nothing's out of order. Like you can make decisions based off of other criteria that are more useful. Okay, so we're back to the bottling line tab. Bottling line, yep, round. If you only have one bottler, I suppose you could delete. Yeah, it's not really worth it, whatever. Okay, runtime per week. Important, but you get that information in the capacity. So you can calculate, you can know how many hours of capacity you have for runtime. But for now, I'll keep it, it's whatever. Okay, changeover time, important. Breakdown time. Yeah, I mean, you can use information from elsewhere, better information to make decisions that you'd make with breakdown time, but it's fine. Okay, unused capacity per week. Yeah, I would delete this one because unused capacity percentage is much more, like it gives you a much better picture of what you're doing. Overtime per week, very important. Runtime, yeah. Changeover time, yep. Breakdown time, yes. Unused capacity, very important. Like this is probably the most important one, maybe. Overtime percentage, yeah, we kind of got that. Overtime per week. Yeah, you know what? We got overtime per week. Just delete this. Overtime percentage is much better. Percentages are better than absolutes because they tell you more information. They tell you more like what you need to know. Okay, let's see. Production plan adherence. Yeah, important. Yeah, it's just a good indicator. Outsourced. Well, if you don't outsource anything, it's going to be 0. Outsource percent, same thing. Delete. Okay, so I just follow along, set every sheet up like this. All right, command enter, command A, table. Okay, so you have the customer. You have, actually, let's see, customer product. Yeah, so this is useful for some things. Customer products is more useful generally, but that's fine. We can do both. So attain contract index, not that important because at the end of the day, ROI is king, right? That's all that matters. Service level, something kind of funny, it's kind of embarrassing is even though we crushed it, like we won, we never knew which service level was most important. We always did, I think we did order lines, but anyways, just, I don't know, to take an average of these or something to figure out what your actual service level is. And then, okay, revenue per week, not that important. Gross margin, shipments per week, order lines per week, pallets per week, delete. Days in warehouse. Is that important? No, because your shelf life will be much more important. Like that'll give you more information. Okay, so this is important. So attain shelf life. OSA, yeah, it's good. Carbon footprint. Well, you would just want to know if your carbon footprint is close to what you promised, and it's useful for I think one of the assignments. But yeah, the assignments are just annoying. So okay, distribution costs. It's important, but it's fine. Complete. Next one, customer product, and command A, table, good to go. Expand the columns a bit. Good. All right, so this just tells you every single round for every single customer or every single product. Also, by the way, see these little arrows here? You probably know this, but you can get rid of certain rounds. So if I only wanted to look at round 8 and 9, for example, just deselect round 8, 9, apply filter, and there we go. It's much easier to see. And you can figure out, okay, for the same customer in the same customer and same product in the different rounds, what did we change? And we can check, okay, demand was the same, and then demand value went up, which means you probably got a higher contract index. Yeah, you can see because sales price increased and the gross margin was higher because other good decisions. So yeah, between round 8 and round 9, it looks like things went well. So I'll clear the filter and we're back to normal. So demand per week units. I mean, it's useful if you're looking at whether or not your promotional pressure changes worked, but for general analysis, I would delete it. Demand per week value. Actually, you don't want demand per week value. Well, no, that's fine. Okay, sales price, not needed. Gross margin per week, not needed. Gross margin per piece, definitely not needed. Attain shelf life. By the way, not needed doesn't mean it's useless. It just means for our purposes, like if you want to spend less than like 10 hours analyzing everything, every single round, then this is probably the best thing to do. You can always analyze more, but yeah. Okay, additional sales as a result of sales promotions. This is useful. And actually, okay, do this yourself. Figure that one out. Service level. Yep, this is important. Okay, now we have service level. Again, no idea which one's more important, but they're both pretty high, so it's fine. Okay, attained shelf life, all very important. Carbon footprint, important in the later round, so we'll keep it. Additional sales as a result. No. This is going to be 0% all the time. Okay, let's say this real quick. Okay, that's how customer product should look. Don't worry, this will get done eventually. Sorry about if you can hear a car alarm in the background. It's just got to stay. It is what it is. Okay. Let's see. Product. I would get rid of this because the way you interact with different customers with the same products is different. So I don't know. I don't think this is a particularly important sheet. It doesn't tell you much more information than you could get with customer product. But if you want, just do similar things. So you can get rid of unit price. You can get rid of gross margin. You can get rid of, yeah, service level is never useful for each product because you want to know for customer product because you make contracts with each customer overall. You don't make contracts for certain products. That doesn't make any sense. Order lines, you can get rid of. Obsoletes, yeah. So the obsoletes actually is very important for very, very, very important. Yeah, okay. Definitely keep obsoletes. You know what? Yeah, fine. Delete. We have this information elsewhere, so delete. That's information elsewhere, so delete. Also have this elsewhere, delete. 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 Okay, obsoletes per week. Well, you have obsoletes percentage, and that's gives you more information if you want. So that gives you more information. That could economic inventory gap, delete. Bias, whatever. Forecast error, whatever. Stock value, delete. Production batches, previous round, delete. Startup product, yeah. This is actually quite useful. Just I wish it was show it in hours, but it's fine. Okay, production plan adherence. Yeah, that's kind of important. Sunnable contribution rate, delete. Rejects. Well, you can get that information in obsoletes, that's fine. Carbon footprint per product is definitely not. Yeah, it's useful to calculate what you should promise sales, but for now, we'll keep it. Okay, so that's how you set up this page. Okay. Warehouse sales area. Insert table. Now this is pretty good. I guess this is a useful thing. Sales area you can definitely delete because it's always going to be DC Netherlands, distribution channel Netherlands. I don't know why that's there. Okay, you have the rounds, you have the warehouse, and then yeah, so you got the raw materials warehouse, which holds everything, pallets, pallet layers, FTLs, all that stuff except for it holds everything except for tanks. All right, now capacity, again, unfortunately, you cannot change the capacity in the inbound warehouse. In the outbound warehouse, you can, so that's really nice. As you can see, as we use less, so like we're around 600, 700, we could change the capacity to 800 because we were not using anywhere near the original kind of preset value of 1500, which means that, hey, we were lean and mean. You know, we used less than half of the original finished goods warehouse space, which is awesome. Cube utilization, very important. Overflow, important. Order lines per week. That's fine. Pallets per week, nope. Hours per week, yeah, sure. It's useful if you know some other information, but the more important thing, the thing that's easier and you can get pretty much the same information from is flexible manpower. Yeah, okay, so it should look like this. Carrier warehouse. Yeah, so this is useless. It doesn't give you anything. I think this is either, I don't know why it's here, so just delete carrier warehouse. Okay, sales area, customer, and product. Geez, getting very specific. Is there a table? Okay, so first of all, delete sales area, the Netherlands. Like, thanks. We don't need to know that for a thousand rows. Okay, product important, customer important, round demand, value. Yeah, demand. Oh, actually, you know what? This is probably pretty useless because we don't need the sales area and we already have customer product. Yeah, just delete this whole thing. Okay, distributor. You're not gonna change distributors. Like there's yeah, whatever, just delete this. Okay, product warehouse. I believe this is important. Although again, it has been a few months, so. Okay, definitely delete the warehouse because you don't need it. Expand this column. Okay, you have the rounds, that week, delete. Then delete. Unit price. I wonder if I can select multiple. Ah, there we go. A unit price, gross margin, service level, keep, order lines. Yep. Up deletes. Very important. Stock value, economic inventory, forecast, bias. Come on. Yep. Production batches. Don't need any of this. Okay. Rejects. Carbon footprint. We'll keep it. Set up a contribution rate. Definitely don't need that. Production line adherence. And startup productivity loss. Okay. Yeah. Things we have this information elsewhere, so it's fine. Yeah, a lot of stuff it'll just be the same. Oh no. I can't delete all these at once. Okay, that's annoying. Let's go through one by one. Okay, first one of the week. Service level, let's say obsoletes, week value. We have percentage. I guess we don't need obsoletes for week value. And stock weeks, don't need that. Stock value, don't need that. Nope. Yeah, we have this information elsewhere, so it's okay. Assignable contribution rate, nope. Rejects, yeah, we have. We'll keep it. It's fine. Production plan adherence, yes. Well, we have this information elsewhere. Yeah, just don't delete. Even if you have like 10 pieces of information, don't delete them all. I did that a few times, so be careful. Not here, I don't think so. It's fine. Okay, so at the end, the thing that you should analyze. So you executed the query of exporting all data to Excel, got a new sheet, and here you go. This is what it should look like. So you just go through the video, and I would just filter everything I filtered it. Obviously, you have different. You willing to spend more time on it, or willing to spend less time on it. You can get different. You can change stuff how you want. Okay, because we did better in the later rounds, like I don't know, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, round 1 and 2, just put out 5s. That's kind of what everybody did, so that's fine. All right, so you can see delivery reliability as it. Okay, so delivery reliability for pack 1 liters. Because we're actually. Okay, how are we going to go through this? Let's look for problems. First, let's look at the bottom line, so as we can see if we need a new bottler or anything. Okay, unused capacity. Generally, as a rule, if you're using less than 85% of your capacity, so unused capacity equals 100% minus used capacity, right? So used plus unused capacity equals 100%. Unused capacity, if it's, I guess, less than 15%, means you should start to worry, and if it's more than 50%, means you're probably okay. So the closest we ever got was 18.8%. Things just kind of ran efficiently, and again, I'll get rid of all but 1 and no, I'll get rid of nothing but 1 and 2. Okay, so 28%, like 28%, 18%, 24%, like yeah, that's 25%, 26%. So that's fine. That's fine. Partly we could have increased. Partly I think we increased the speed of the bottler. You can check by going to decision log. I'm not going to show all the decisions, but you can see what's what. If you check. Yeah. Okay. So for example, this in round 4, you can see our bottler was getting close to 15%, which means okay, like if our demand is going to increase next round, if we're going to increase promotional pressure, whatever, we should be prepared for it. It's not the biggest worry, but just be prepared. So my guess would be that we increase the speed of our bottler or did some preventative maintenance, whatever it is, right? And then we ended up around very consistent 25-ish% the rest of the time. So that's good. If anything, we actually could have sold this bottler and bought a cheaper one, but we'll see. No, I'm glad. I'm happy that we did. Okay. Supplier components. So that would be an operational modeling line. For supplier components, what you want is to make sure your suppliers give you what they say they're going to give you when they say they're going to give it to you, and that they're living up to their contracts. So I'll just filter out those 2 rounds. Okay, rejection percentage. This is the percent of products that you reject, which they gave you. So if it's super high, that's not so good. So actually a really, 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 really good one until we get to a few of the later rounds. I don't know what. Actually, no, I do know what happened here. But anyways, if you look at rounds 3 through round 7 for vitamins, whatever it's called, their vitamin C supplier, it's 0%, 0%, 0%, 0%, 0%. That's great. But the thing is, if we were paying them, if our contract was too high with them, so we're paying them a lot, it's fine if there's like a 1%, 2% rejection components. if that means we're going to have higher ROI. So every decision, every number you got to look at in terms of, okay, would changing this result, how would we get ROI given this number, right? So demand per week. Yeah, the less demand you need, given that you're going to sell the same amount of things, the better. So as you can see, we're this is good. Generally, it goes for vitamin C at least. The amount that we ordered per week decreased. So we started off with like 700, and at the end we ended like we're getting down to 562, which is good. So given you're going to sell the same amount of product, the less components you need for that product means the less that you wasted. So if you order twice as much vitamin C as you need, you waste half of it. Well, it'd be better to waste none of it, or waste like a very small amount of it and order less, because you're paying for the components whether or not you actually end up using them productively. So, and also we dual source vitamin C. That was a big mistake. Do not dual source vitamin C. There's no need. But like, yeah, that's like I'm not saying copy everything we did. We made plenty of mistakes, so don't worry. Okay, rejection components were very low for these guys. So let's say the demand time was super high. We could order in large quantities from these guys because they're very, very reliable and very high quality. But let's say the demand time, I forget, let's say it's like 40 days. Well, if there's a disruption, we want to make sure that we have another supplier. So they're worse, see, but maybe they can fill in the gaps if we ever need any, if we ever have any demand surges or there are disruptions where, well, I guess this would be in Spain. If there are any disruptions in Spain, stuff like that. So yeah, you can just look, see if you're satisfied with your suppliers, see if they do what you want them to do, and yeah, some good indicators. As long as your demand for each component goes down, even you're showing the same things, that's great. All right, for components, component availability, this is probably the most important thing from here. Oh, yes, very important thing. In TFC generally, there are plenty of things that'll kill your ROI, kill your company. The probably biggest thing is to make sure that you have very low obsolete products in finished goods. So a way to do that is by lowering your shelf life agreements. I'll go back to the browser here. So in sales, okay, every finished product will last for 40 days or 5 weeks, whatever. I don't know. Okay, say 40 days because the math's easier. Okay. So if you promise to, no, 5 weeks, math is easier, sorry. Wait, so it's 5 weeks. Your shelf life is if you promise 80% shelf life, that means you will make a product and you will sell it to the customer with at least 80% of the 5 weeks of the total shelf life left for the customer to sell it. Okay, I'll try to say that again because it didn't really make sense. If you agreed to sell someone a product with 100% of the shelf life left, you'd have to give it to them immediately after it was produced, right? If you agree to sell someone a product with 50% shelf life left, that means that you'd have to give, let's say you produce something on October 1st and it expires on October 31st. Well, that means you'd have to give it to them on October 15th or 16th if it was 50% shelf life. Now let's say April, because there are 30 days in April. If you agreed to give it to someone with 90% shelf life left, it means you have to sell it to them by April 3rd, because it's 3 of the 30, so 10% of the month is gone, or I guess maybe 4th, whatever. I hope that makes sense. TFC 19. Okay. So this is your, okay. So the lower the obsolete products, the better, and you can change it with the stuff I've been talking about, and you can kind of figure out other things that'll help you lower your obsolete products, which is there are, but that's probably the biggest. Yeah, you can produce things more frequently, so change the production interval when you produce things. So if your production intervals are too long, then you need to produce more of a product, and then more of it is just sitting around in your warehouse, like losing shelf life. And if finished goods go beyond the expiry date is, okay, the percent of time it's existed is beyond the shelf life agreement you have with your customers, that means you have to throw it away or donate it. So that's kind of useless. It's just completely wasted product. So the reason obsolete finished good products will completely destroy your ROI is because you spend all the money to produce it and you get nothing from it, like 0, 0, 0. You get nothing from it. Whoops. Okay, get nothing from it. So moving on, we can see delivery reliability from our suppliers. So that's overall. And yeah, earlier rounds we're not doing quite as well, but later we got some really good suppliers for Pack 1 later. You can see the reliability is like 98%. A little bit hiccup here, but whatever. Yeah, you can see how good your delivery reliability is. If it's lower, you may want to keep more raw material components then, so increase space in your warehouse if you have room. So we definitely have room. So you go to warehouse sales area, you can see we use hardly any. Like, okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. With cube utilization of 12.8%, 0% overflow, we used 100. Yeah, okay, so we had 12.8% cube utilization because we just like went nuts and going lean in the last round. It's kind of an experimental round, and yet if we look at components, our component availability in round 9. Just go through it real quick. For every component, 100, 90, no, it's 99, 99.8, and 100%. So effectively 400% and 199.2%. That is nuts. Like, so that's yes, that's very good. If you can reduce it's kind of a challenge. You can reduce the amount of warehouse space you're using for fun. Again, I'm just saying for fun because it's round 9 and it doesn't count. Our component availability was still super high. So we were at 100 for every time we got pack 1 liters, which means that we didn't need to have this high. If it was 99%, it would be okay. I just really like it high, so it's kind of kind of a weird thing about our team. I was obsessed with making sure this is super high, although you definitely don't need it to be. There are trade-offs that come with it, but it's okay. Component availability, that's one of the cheat codes. You have so much room in the warehouse that if you're running your company efficiently, you can just keep more and more and more and more in stock, and then you don't need to worry about anything. So that's why our component availability is so high. We had one hiccup, I think, when there was some disruption, like we got attacked by some alien pirates, whatever it is. 96% somewhere. Yeah, right here. So I guess in round 8 we had some sort of disruption. Oh, we definitely did, because the delivery reliability of our oranges was super low. Yeah, so we must, I don't know, maybe there's an earthquake in Florida. We couldn't get our oranges, or tornado, whatever. So yeah, you can just kind of analyze this and see. You can figure out what the story is. Rejection components, that's important, but it's more important from your suppliers. Actually, you know what? You can probably just get rid of this. Nope. Wait. The reason is because while the information is important, you can get better, more specific information about the rejection percentage for each supplier. So if you agree, well, until some point, lower rejection components is better, because then if it's too high, you have to inspect them, and that costs money and time and all kinds of stuff. So it's not very pleasant. So that's this, and that's this. We do bottling line. I think we did bottling line. Yeah. So unused capacity, so long as 85%, you're fine. That's just a general rule. I've heard some people say 90%, some people say a little more. And given that demand is constant, they're probably right. It's just we always erred on the side of being careful. I think the reason we were comfortable making small changes and not being too radical is because what we were doing was working. So yeah, I said this before, but general principle, if things are going well, don't change them too much, because you have a good thing and improve it slightly. Slow continuous improvement, as Dr. Miller would say. There you go. Or not slow, but yeah, I guess I would add slow. He would say continuous improvement. There you go. All right, so the next one is customer. This is, okay, again, service level, no idea which one is which, but let's just look at the last few rounds. Yeah, 568. That's fine. That's good, man. Okay, so service level to each of the customers. So this is important because we made a contract with them in sales to say we would provide them with a certain service level. So here, say, okay, so 97.5%. We can see what we actually promised them. Actually, you know what? Let's look at round 9. So sales decision log. Round 9. Okay, so we promised 96.5% service level. Oh yeah. That's another enormous thing in sales. Okay, so if you overperform what you promised, if you under promise and over deliver, you get bonuses. Now, bonuses, okay, in a perfect world, you would be able to perfectly predict the future, and you would promise your customers, you make a contract with customers that reflected exactly how you would perform next round. However, you should err on the side of under promising and over delivering. So 3 to 4, you're going to be wrong all the time, because you can never predict exactly how things will go. But you want to make sure at least, I don't know, maybe 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 times you under promise. The reason for that is because you can get penalties or bonuses. So bonuses are what happens when you overperform what is in your contract, and penalties are what happens when you underperform what is in your contract. And bonuses cost a lot more than penalties gain. And that's just the way it's set up, and it kind of makes sense. So if you deliver more than the customer wanted, you get some money. So like, let's say you would have gotten $1 if your contract was more accurate. Well, maybe you get 60 cents or in bonus dollars, but it maybe cost you like $2, and you lose $2 if you underperform by the same absolute value, like by the same absolute amount. So we definitely predicted what we could get, and then unpromised a little bit. So we can look at our actual service level, 97.6%. That's very good. We're happy with that. So okay, this was 96. Okay, say fine. Say let's copy again. Sorry, I don't know how to calculate our actual thing. Wait, AVG or no average? Yep, average of these three numbers. All right, so 97%. Say our service level is 97%, right? Well, we promised 96.5%. That's good. That's good. That's slightly, we delivered slightly more than what we promised, which is awesome. That's exactly what we want. All right, delete this. And you can just do that for every round. You can say, okay, let's say round 8 kind of went badly because we had some disruptions and other stuff. So you know what? Let's just take out round 8. I don't have to embarrass myself. So how it went badly. Okay, so these are all good. Let's say that in round 5, all round, we promised to deliver. No, this is a much better one. Round 7 to technical. Say we promised 96%. So that would cost us a little bit. We could say, okay, we're going to make the following changes, and you can use previous rounds information to predict what you should promise or what you should put in the contracts. But let's say we provided 95.1% service to Techo in round 7. Well, let's say we run things a little more efficiently. We figured out ways to increase the capacity of different things in our company, and we think, given the changes we made, and then say we got a little lucky. Say we think that now we can get up to, I don't know, 96%, like being somewhat conservative. Okay, it turns out we actually gave them 97%, or if we take the average of these three, something like 90, yeah, okay, whatever, 96.8%. So if we promise 96% next round, that means well, okay, you can figure out how to figure out what to put in the contracts and sales the next round using historic data. Attained shelf life, again, that's, well, yeah, okay, it's the exact same thing basically, except, okay, shelf life percentage, you can look at what you actually attained. If you're doing fine, that's great. You just want to make sure you have very, 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 very low obsolete products. That will kill you. Much better to have bonus dollars than to have obsolete products. So the shelf life, promise low, over deliver. I recommend doing that all the time because not only do you get bonuses if you under deliver, you also incur unbelievable costs from obsolete products, and that will kill you. Okay, that's good for this. All right, customer product. Yeah, this gives you more information about specific products. You make contracts based off of all the products. So let's say you promise a 97% service level, you achieve a 97.5% service level. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter if one of your product service level was 100%, and the other product was 94%, the other product was 98%. It's like, well, you make contracts not per product, you make contracts overall. So it doesn't really. Maybe I should have just deleted the sheet. Geez, sorry. Maybe I should have just deleted the sheet, but we'll see. Okay, that's attained shelf life percentage. Nope, customer product. Yeah, you know what? I won't go through this too much because this customer one will give you more useful information. Okay, product. Yeah, this is good. And the most important thing here, by far, is obsoletes, column C, or I guess now column C. So you want very low obsoletes. I'll make sure we got good at this later in the round. So say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. My filter. Obsolete products should be very low. Unfortunately, yeah, we had a huge hiccup here, so we were producing things and it did not go well. We had a big problem with vitamin C, so anything that involved vitamin C later in the round, I didn't do so well with. We got some, bad advice, but it's all good. So I followed it, so my fault. Obsolete products, you want it to be low. 5% way too high. 3.8%, I think is still too high because this any percent over 0 represents numbers that we made stuff, incurred the cost of making stuff. There it counts as investment, and it'll lower. So return on investment is return divided by investment, right? So let's say you make $400,000 off of a $4 million investment. Do that to 400,000 divided by 4 divided by 4 million times 100 because then you get as a percentage equals 10%, right? So if you invest, what am I saying? Yeah, so this counts towards your investment. So obviously, the larger the denominator, then the smaller your ROI is. The larger the numerator is, then the larger your ROI is, and like vice versa. So if the denominator is smaller, you get more ROI. So if you can decrease your investment, still get the same return. That's great. So yes, obsolete, bad. Lower these however you can. There's lots of strategies. Yeah, we can figure them out. Okay, stock in weeks. Yeah, it's important for some things. It's okay. Startup productivity. This mostly goes into your operations and operations decisions. Mostly you can change this based off how you run your company. We were very, very, very happy with this. There's no problem because it's trade-off. So if you start up more often, then there are advantages to that. But it also means you get more productivity loss. So if you start producing new products every single day, let's say, right, then you switch it out too often and you don't produce that much. Well, yeah, you incur the costs of starting a new product all the time. And that's not so nice. Carbon footprint, useful for knowing what to promise your customers. Actually, this is kind of neat. I guess we can see what happened for our team. So yeah, as we didn't really focus that much on reducing carbon footprint. Because it's not a moral thing. It's not like we don't care at all about carbon footprint. The only thing we care about, right, in this game, in order to win, is return on investment. And then lowering your carbon footprint will result in a higher contact index with your customers because that's what they want, which it will. To the degree that it will, that's how much you should lower carbon footprint, given the cost, like taking everything into consideration. But also, as you run your business more efficiently, then the carbon footprint will just go down because you're using less power, you're using less startup costs, you're using all kinds of things. So generally, not in all cases, but generally, the more efficient you are, the less carbon footprint there will be. And given we didn't aim to reduce carbon footprint specifically, you can kind of see that. So 1.34, 1.24, and then basically kind of stays there. All right, going back to round 5 again, really high here. I don't know what, oh yeah, it's some hiccups in vitamin C products. Well, yeah, I guess that's specifically, so that's fine. Kind of forget this one. And then, okay, back to round 5, 1.46 all the way down to 1.32, which is nice. 1.07 all the way down to 0.98, and it goes on and on and on. So you just use historic data plus the changes you think you're going to make. That is how you figure out how to make your decisions later. Okay. Oh yeah, production plan adherence. Generally, the higher, the better. Okay, raw materials warehouse. Kind of went over this, I think. Yeah, so cube utilization, very high before we were very good at this stuff. We can use more usage. Anytime you use more, you get overflow, and then you it goes to, I think there's an outbound, there's a kind of external warehouse that you have to pay somebody to use it. So you definitely don't want to go over. But as you can see, we did completely fine using 12.8%. I cannot believe that. That's still shocking to me. And 14.7% here. Round 8, we kind of went off the rails because we thought, oh well, okay, this sounds kind of, I don't mean to sound arrogant. We knew we were going to win it. We knew we were going to win anyways. So I thought, oh, let's just kind of experiment. So all of the round 8 stuff was kind of thrown off a bit. So we used way more of our cube utilization. Turns out not to be very useful. Like we could have easily stuck with, look, we were in like the low 200s and even low 100s when we get down to here, and obviously 600. So like what's it called? Quintupled our cube utilization. Completely unnecessary. You can stick to like, if you're good at if you can be efficient, you can get to 12.8% cube utilization. Unfortunately, it's so stupid. You cannot change the capacity of the inbound of the raw materials warehouse. It is so unbelievably annoying. I cannot believe. Otherwise, excellent simulation. Let us do that. So tank utilization. This is difficult because, as you can see, it's usually very, very, very high. The only thing we ordered after round, I don't know, maybe 4. So I'll just select 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Filter. The only thing we ordered in tanks were oranges. So I think there's an option to order oranges and mangoes in tanks, but we only ordered oranges and tanks after a while because, well, just for various reasons. And as you can see, our utilization was still very high. This was okay with us, not always not brilliant. Like these 3 are much better than round 6, obviously, because that's way too high. We were okay with this because we really didn't want to run out of orange stock. So we kind of traded this off for high component availability. So if we look at components, look at oranges, round 5. Yep, so these were like 99%, above 99+% component availability. Looking back at it now, we probably could have made a few different decisions. So I'm trying to figure out where we were. Yes, okay. Probably could have made a few different decisions and actively decided to make the trade-off of running out of oranges a little more, because like maybe 98% component availability would be okay. Hard to tell exactly without more time, but and then kept lower oranges, like kept lower orange stock. That could have been a good idea. But yeah, tank utilization, that's just the cost we were going to incur, and we were okay with that. Calculated all the costs using the information, so it's fine. And then overflow, yeah, that's just a result of how much utilization we have. So obviously 0% when we were under the 100% cube utilization. So that's good. Okay, finished goods warehouse. That's yes, we can change the amount of pallet locations in the finished goods warehouse, I'm pretty sure. And we did, and that turned out to our great benefit, lower investment, and it meant we have better cube utilization. So this is excellent. We were okay, 90%, a little high, you know, maybe we were a little aggressive in lowering this because we wanted to cut our investment to get higher ROI, but it's fine. 83%, great. This a little high, don't know what happened exactly here, but it's fine. We didn't go over 100%. And then cube utilization, it's good, 80%, 80%. Reason this is over this is more than 0%, like some number, even though we never went over 100% here, is because demand changes, it fluctuates. So maybe on overall, our cube utilization was less than 100%, but I don't know, on day 14, turns out that we had tons of stuff produced, and just so happened that we didn't have enough warehouse space. So you can be under 100% in cube utilization and have some overflow, which is not ideal, but a little bit of overflow. Again, all trade-offs. So you can see flexible manpower. These numbers are fine. You have to pay more for overtime. It's basically overtime, and you have to pay double or something, or 1.5 times. If it's this low, I wouldn't worry about it. It's labor is pretty cheap here, and well, I mean, you just crunch the numbers, like figure it out for yourself whether or not you want to have lower or higher usage of flexible manpower, and you can see. Okay, lastly, product warehouse. Let's see. Yeah, actually, reject value is not important to me most. Well, no, sorry. Yes, that is important because you can figure out what percent of finished goods people sent back. Thankfully, in the later rounds for us, they mostly went down to 0 as a result of just good operations. Yeah, okay. You know what? I won't delete this, but the better you run your company, the lower rejects you're going to have. The more you inspect the raw materials, the more you do all kinds of stuff, and the higher your service level, the higher your shelf life percentage, then the lower rejects you'll have. Okay, so service level, not super important actually here because you want to know this for the customer, not just for the product. Well, not at all for the product, really, it doesn't really matter. And then for order lines, you also don't really need this except for in various use cases. Yeah, obsolete. So it tells you again what your obsolete percentages are. You have this information, or at least something very similar to this information elsewhere, but it's as important as I said before. And yeah, carbon footprint. We have that information elsewhere. I guess this is not a very useful sheet. It's so funny. They give you so much data, and it's useful. Like a lot of it, you're going to need at some point. But yeah, there's a lot. Okay, I have notes, so I'm going to check my notes and make sure I've covered everything. Yeah, demand won't change unless you increase or decrease market share or change your promotional pressure. Yeah, I would experiment with promotional pressure to see if you have room for it, to see if you can make enough extra sales to increase your ROI. Yeah, obsolete goods will definitely kill your company. Don't buy more machines. Really stupid. Read all the emails. Tell your teammates too. If you don't trust your teammates, then just get their login information and re-inform them. Yeah, disruptions are annoying, and just be prepared. They're serious. Like they could be big problems. Okay, I already talked about sales and roles, plain stuff, some graphs. Okay, I hope this was helpful. And yes, I really enjoyed this simulation. It was not impossible to figure out. Like when we logged in, just didn't understand anything. The instructions were super clear, but hopefully this helps you out. Also know that it's weighted. So if you screw up on the first round, it's not that big of a deal. Well, I mean, it's not great, obviously, but your grade in the class will be weighted. So if you do really well in the later rounds, after you have more experience and more time to deal with things, then you'll have a higher, it'll count more towards a good overall result. Like a weighted ROI is called. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching. Sorry. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope that was helpful, and I'm out.